Now we are ready to plug in our database. The first thing that we have to do is to ensure that our database actually fits into the container database. And we do that by generating a manifest file in our non-CDB database. The manifest file contains information about our database, and we can use that as input in our container database for the check plug compatibility function, which can tell us whether or not you will hit any issues when you plug in this specific database to this container database. After running the function, you should always query the view PDB plugin violations. Even if the function tells you that it's safe to plug in this database, you should always query the view to get much more details. The issues that are found by the function are grouped by severity. It can be either errors or warnings. Now, errors is something that you must definitely look at and fix one way or the other, whereas some warning messages are more like informational messages. It could be a database parameter gets automatically changed, or in this example here, I'm told by the database that I have to run the non-CDB to PDB script, but I already know that. But anyway, you should always query the view PDB plugin violations. Let me briefly touch upon the manifest file before we continue. We just created the manifest file, and in fact, it's just a simple XML file that is human readable. I mean, for those of us that do understand XML. But if you look at the file, you can see that it contains a lot of characteristics about the database, like for instance, information about data files, services, parameters, and so forth. But very important, you should never make changes to the manifest file. The compatibility check is optional. You don't have to do it, but I would recommend that you always do it to find out in advance if there are any critical issues when you plug in this database to a container database. If you plan to rename your database when you plug it in as a PDB, you can check whether there are any issues with the new name in that container database. Now we are ready to plug in the database. The first thing that I have to do is to shut down my non-CDB database and restart it in read-only mode. Then I can regenerate the manifest file. It's very important that I regenerate the manifest file, and I do it while the database is in read-only mode. This is a prerequisite. If you have a manifest file that wasn't generated in read-only mode, you can't use it later on. After generating the manifest file, I now shut down my non-CDB database, and I won't need that anymore. In my container database, I can now create a new pluggable database. I give it a name, and I refer to the manifest file that I just generated. And that's it. In this example, the database will reuse the data files where they are located, and now you have created a pluggable database.